Do not, under any circumstances, call him a rat. Even though rat is literally in his name. Touchy much? Ratigan is purely a big mouse of unattested genius. Theft, kidnapping, murder, nothing is beneath his dastardly agendas. He truly is the world's greatest criminal mind. His smooth theatrical presence was accented by the film's score and the songs he so graciously sings for us. But who could have written such wonderful music to go with such a wonderful villain? Let's find out. Before we start, don't forget to check out our Discord server, and of course, like and subscribe. Henry Mancini was born Enrico Nicola Mancini in the Little Italy neighborhood of Cleveland, and raised in West Alcopa, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. Music became an important focus for him at an early age while he was growing up, largely because his father played with a local band called Aerosmith. I'm sorry, I meant the Sons of Italy.
I started when I was 8. When I was 8 years old, my dad, we've ended up in this town in Pennsylvania, and he was an amateur flute player, amateur musician, and in addition to making his living in the steel mill, that's where he worked. And he gave me a piccolo. You know, anybody that plays flute also plays piccolo, which is a small one, and I was just a little kid, and I started on the piccolo. And then later gravitated. Where'd that come from? Later took up piano, and then after that, at about 13 or 14, I started to arrange music, not knowing what I was doing at all.
His fascination with film music was sparked after he heard Rudolf Kopp's majestic score for The Crusades, which he went to see with his father in the mid-1930s. Mancini's musical talent was confirmed by becoming first chair flute of the Pennsylvania All-State Band in 1937, at the age of 13. His growing reputation resulted in him playing for the Alcopa High School Band before he even entered the school. What? While initially showing an interest in classical music in high school, he then fell in love with jazz and was especially fond of Glenn Miller's music.
I had been listening, in addition to playing flute and piccolo in the bands in the school, and then I started becoming, that was all classical oriented, you know. I became interested in, through the radio, because all the big bands were on at that time, became interested in popular music, and at that time the big bands were starting to really take over. Miller, Dorsey, Shaw, the whole swing band era, plus a lot of the black bands, Fletcher Henderson, Basie, Ellington, all of these people. That was their heyday. It was not in the beginning. It was just the beginning of that whole thing. And I became interested in what they were doing, what they were playing. And to this day, I can't remember why I decided to write music. I don't know. If you ask me, it just, you know, when you're a kid, you kind of, I mentioned in the book having tunnel vision, you know, where you get your eye on something and nothing else matters. And that's what happened. I just got completely taken over by music and by these bands.
Mancini learned a great deal about arranging from Max Adkins, the conductor of the Stanley Theatre House Orchestra in Pittsburgh. Adkins eventually had Mancini make arrangements for his own band. Max Adkins was the most important influence of my life, wrote Mancini in his autobiography, Did They Mention the Music? Before long, Mancini was sending his own arrangements to the Benny Goodman.
In addition to going to school, I had done an arrangement for Benny Goodman. My teacher, Max Adkins, in Pittsburgh, had Benny give me a chance to do an arrangement for him. And he liked it very much, and he sent for me. He didn't send for me, but I went to New York. I wasn't ready at all. I'm 17, you know, and I was not in the prodigy class or the genius class, you know. So I had a lot to learn about what I wanted to do. And Benny said, "Hey, kid, you know, you're not ready." So.
After high school, he continued his musical education at the Music School of Carnegie Institute of Technology in Pittsburgh. In 1942, he moved on to the Juilliard School of Music in New York City. And I'm just going to say it, this guy has an impressive resume. In 1943, after he turned 18, Mancini was drafted into the military.
Well, I started in the Air Force, and fortunately, I was assigned to a band, an Air Force band. I was there for a while, and then, for some strange reason, they broke up a lot of the Air Force bands because they needed more soldiers. You know, why they thought that this flute player was going to be a good soldier, I don't know. But I then went to the ground force, and I went through the engineers, and I was in a lot of things. But mostly, fortunately, and thank God, most of it was music.
While serving, Mancini met musicians who played in Glenn Miller's Army Air Corps Band. These connections helped him after the war to become part of the Glenn Miller Band, which was then led by Tex Bennick. I guess this really adds new meaning to the term Band of Brothers, huh? Huh? Anything? Nothing? Okay, moving on. Before long, he was putting together arrangements for film studios, which led to him signing a contract with the Universal International Studio in 1952. That year, he made his debut as a film composer with the score for Abbott and Costello's Lost in Alaska. For a while, Mancini's composing efforts were relegated to low-budget science fiction thrillers, such as Creature from the Black Lagoon, filmed in Silver Spring, Florida, and It Came from Outer Space, filmed in, outer space? He also scored the early rock musical Rock, Pretty Baby. In 1954, he raised his profile as a composer significantly with his Oscar-nominated score for The Glenn Miller Story. Full circle, huh? Isn't that just heartwarming? A major boost to Mancini's reputation occurred in 1958 after his contract at Universal expired.
Well, I was at Universal about the time, and the music departments had all been dismantled in most of the studios because the studio bands, the studio staff orchestras no longer existed. They found that they were getting fewer and fewer pictures, and they couldn't afford to have a band on staff. In addition to that, all the composers and arrangers, such as myself, were let go at the time. But I was out then, and then I used to come back to go to lunch at the commissary. Mm-hmm. In those days, Universal was a very sleepy, homey kind of place to be, you know, not like now, as they call them, the factories, mm-hmm. the studios. So I went back and I had my hair cut in the barber shop there, and it's adjacent to the commissary. You come out of the barber shop and the commissary's here, and I was coming out of the barber shop, and Blake Edwards was going in to have lunch with some people. Among them was, in that group, Don Sharp. He had just had a production meeting to see how they were going to do the new show he had called Peter Gunn. And as I was coming out, he was going down, and they were talking about the show, so I guess he asked me if I wanted to do it. Best offer I ever had.
It was the beginning of a long and successful relationship between the two men, spanning over 30 years and more than 25 films.
I enjoy working for him. And, you know, Blake is the kind of guy that you want. He will give you complete leeway. But if it doesn't make it, he'll tell you, you know, that's like I wish he would. You know, if he didn't, I would probably go crazy.
The result of their first meeting was Mancini's hard-hitting yet restrained jazz theme for Peter Gunn, which earned him 2 Grammy Awards, sold over 1 million copies, and ushered in a new style for television themes, and also would later be in the Blues Brothers. Mancini followed up his Peter Gunn success with a popular theme in 1959 for Mr. Lucky, another Edwards Private Eye series. This theme featured the lush sounds of strings and organ, and earned him 2 more Grammy Awards for Best Arrangement and Best Performance by an Orchestra. His peak may have been Breakfast at Tiffany's, which won him 5 Grammy Awards in its recorded version. Featured in the score was the legendary Moon River, which was especially written for the limited vocal range of Audrey Hepburn, who sang in the film.
We're after the same rainbows and waiting round the bend. My huckleberry friend, Moon River, and me.
In 1963, he wrote scores for Charade and Days of Wine and Roses. And in 1964, he wrote the theme for The Pink Panther.
The Pink Panther, that was originally a theme that was written for the Phantom. You know who the Phantom was? That's trivia. It's David Niven was the Phantom in the original Pink Panther. And it was his theme. I'd written it for him. And then Blake came and told me that we were having an animated cartoon at the beginning. I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a Panther, a Pink Panther. And so I said, well, that theme will work just great for that, and did.
But did it start with the feeling the tempo, or?
Yeah, well, it was stealth. Funny stealth. I wrote this in Northridge. We had by the way, this is the first music room I've ever had. We built this house, and finally I got myself a music room. I used to write off the garage. We had a little room off the garage for me that had a rented piano in it. And I went out after dinner, went through the cars, and went back into my room to write. And I was just sitting there thinking about this, and for no reason, I just started to go like this. And this is what the first thing that came up was, that's cool, you know. Yeah. Well, what's that? What am I going to do with that? And then I said, well, that's really not the melody. There's something else going to happen with that. And I was thinking a bit more, and then it just, and this one too, once I got onto it, it was like an hour, you know. I don't know it after 35 years. Has it been that long? But that's it's so obvious, you know. That's what any composer gets frustrated about. When you do something that works, and you say, why can't I do it again?
And now we get to the meat of the episode, where we talk about Disney. We are called discographies after all, and not Manciniographies. Manciniographies? Manographies? Whatever. Anyway, in 1985, Mancini was hired to write and score for The Great Mouse Detective. Kind of sounds like mice scampering, doesn't it? Mancini uses these trips throughout the film, giving us a wonderful feeling that we're in for an adventure. Mancini also wrote 2 of the 3 songs in the film, with the help of Larry Grossman and Ellen Fitzhugh. One was The World's Greatest Criminal Mind.
Now comes the real tour de force, tricky and wicked, of course. My earlier crimes were fine for their times, but now that I'm at it again, an even grimmer plot has been simmering in my great criminal brain.
And the other was Goodbye So Soon.
Goodbye so soon, and isn't this a crime? We know by now the time
Adieu.
knows how
Auf
to
Wiedersehen.
stop.
Arrivederci.
So
Farewell.
goodbye. So soon,
Bye-bye, Basil.
go separate way.
My favorite part about these two songs is that it plays off of Ratigan's theatrical nature. Ratigan isn't just a villain, he's playing the part of a villain, and that just makes him really fun to watch. This Broadway-style show music elevates and reinforces the idea that Ratigan is not only behaving badly, but he's just having so much fun while doing it. This, combined with Vincent Price's memorable performance, which you can learn about here, showcase Ratigan as one of the most fun-to-hate villains in Disney's lesser-known Rolodex of films.
Even meaner, you made it. Worse than the widows and orphans you drowned.
Mancini has so many impressive accomplishments under his belt that it would take far too long to mention all of them. Mancini has scored a number of TV movies and themes, including Newhart and Ripley's Believe It or Not. He has recorded over 90 albums in styles ranging from big band to light classical to pop. He's also a concert performer, conducting over 50 engagements per year, resulting in over 600 symphony performances during his lifetime. Plus, he's written a ballet and 2 books. And through all of this, Mancini has collected over 20 Grammy Awards, 7 gold records, and 4 Oscars.
Oscar number 1 was these two. This was Breakfast at Tiffany's for the score, Moon River with Johnny Mercer, 61 and 62, Days of Wine and Roses with Johnny Mercer. And the one on the far end is Victor Victoria. Leslie Bricusse and I won that for Best Song Score. I believe it was, I don't know when it was. It was the mid-'80s, I guess. But there they are. One way we were lucky with Peter Gunn, because the year that became the big hit, the Grammys, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, the Grammys had their first year. And we won that first night. The Peter Gunn album was the first album of the year. I have 20 of these, but there are only 19 up there, if you've noticed. But the one that's not there broke. And now this one here, look at the hand. See, these have little handles. These are so old. I don't want to touch that; it might fall over. But I'm having the other one repaired, so I think it'll be back here. And this is his little brother's up there.
Mancini was and will always remain within our hearts as a magnificent musical artist. It is unfortunate. In 1994, Mancini passed away from pancreatic cancer while living in Los Angeles. He has left behind an incredible legacy of music that spans years, genres, and films. He could perform as well as write beautiful music that still inspires people to this day. So keep in tune to this channel to hear more about cool guys and gals like Henry Mancini. Thank you for watching this episode of Discographies. Don't forget to check out our Discord server, and if you liked the episode, click the thumbs up button below. And if you want to be notified when the next episode comes out, subscribe and click the bell. Comment below with characters you would like to see us cover. Further reading and references are linked below. We hope to see you in another Discography.